Captain Elias Crane had never expected to find anything remarkable on the far edge of the asteroid belt. Space was usually quiet here, a stretch of black emptiness dotted with lonely rocks and the occasional glint of distant stars. The hum of his ship, the Starling, was the only companion he had grown used to. He had traveled thousands of light years in search of new trade routes and forgotten mining stations, hoping to make a name for himself, or at least enough credits to retire comfortably. Yet on this day, he was about to discover that even in the most ordinary corners of space, the extraordinary could appear when least expected. The alert pinged sharply, cutting through the monotony of his navigation routine. Elias frowned at the console. Distress signals were rare here, and this one was faint, barely rising above the static hum of the asteroid belt. He leaned closer, his fingers hovering over the controls. The origin was a small, remote mining station on the edge of a collapsed cavern, an area largely abandoned by most explorers because of its unstable environment. Still, Elias' instincts told him to investigate. Something about the signal was different. As he adjusted the ship's trajectory, he thought about the stories he had heard of travelers who ignored faint cries for help. Some were never heard from again, lost to asteroids, rogue comets, or simply space itself. Elias wasn't reckless, but he had never been one to turn away from someone in need. By the time he reached the coordinates, the signal had grown stronger, urgent, and insistent. His scanners revealed the cause, a small spacecraft, its hull cracked and sparking, precariously balanced on the edge of a cavern that could collapse at any moment. Elias activated the ship's external sensors and zoomed in. Inside, he could make out a single figure moving desperately, trying to stabilize the damaged vessel. As he focused, the outline sharpened, and he realized the figure was not human. The creature had an elegant form, taller than a human, with delicate limbs and an aura of grace that seemed almost ethereal. Its head was adorned with a subtle crown-like structure, and its movements carried a quiet dignity, even in a moment of panic. "Hang on," Elias whispered to himself. He activated the Starling's external manipulator arms, carefully approaching the craft. The asteroid's surface was jagged and unstable, forcing him to maneuver with extreme precision. Every second counted. The alien's small vessel trembled, a loose panel flaring with sparks. If it tipped even slightly, it would plummet into the cavern below, crushed beyond recognition. Elias' hands moved instinctively. He aligned the manipulator arms and latched onto the alien ship. "I've got you," he said, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. The figure inside froze, peering through a fractured window with wide, luminescent eyes. Elias could see the mixture of fear and relief shining in them, and something deep inside him shifted. Saving lives was one thing, but there was an unfamiliar weight in seeing another being, so alien yet so vulnerable, depending on him completely. With careful movements, he lifted the vessel away from the cavern's edge, each adjustment precise to avoid triggering a collapse. Minutes passed like hours, but finally the craft was secured safely on a flat surface nearby. Elias exhaled, a deep sense of relief washing over him. "You're safe now," he said. There was no response at first, only a silence that felt heavy in the air. Then the hatch opened and the alien emerged. Her movements were fluid, almost like a dance, yet there was a quiet strength to her posture. She studied him with eyes that seemed to glow faintly under the dim light of the asteroid belt. Her voice was soft but clear, carrying musical tones that Elias struggled to fully comprehend. "You saved me," she said, her words halting, as if the act of speaking them was a challenge. "I am grateful." "No need for thanks." He offered a hand to help her down from the ship, and she took it, her grip surprisingly strong. Despite the differences in their forms, there was an instant connection, a recognition that kindness and courage were universal, even across the stars. As they stepped back from the precarious edge, Elias noticed her attire. It was elegant and functional, shimmering in subtle colors that shifted with movement. The fabric seemed alive in a way he couldn't explain, flowing like liquid metal yet soft to the touch. Around her neck, a small emblem glowed faintly, hinting at her importance, though he did not yet understand how significant she truly was. "My name is Leora," she said finally, after a moment of silence. "Princess Leora of the Verari." The words hung in the air, almost too strange to believe. Elias blinked, momentarily caught off guard. A princess? In this remote, forgotten corner of space, and yet there was no doubt in her bearing, no hint of pretense, only the quiet certainty of someone who knew their own value. "You're a long way from home," he said, the words coming naturally. "How did you end up here?" Saves you from disappointment, saves me from obligation. He gestured toward the starling. Come on, you can ride with me until we figure out your next steps. He didn't press her, knowing that trust was something earned, not demanded. As Leora climbed aboard, Elias noted the differences in their physiology. Her presence was alien, yet there was something comforting in it. A reminder that life could take countless forms, and that no matter the shape, the core of a being's essence often resonated in ways humans could understand. He wondered how many species across the galaxy had faced peril and relied on strangers' kindness, just as he had been compelled to act today. Once aboard the Starling, Elias began the process of stabilizing Leora's craft. The alien watched quietly, occasionally offering suggestions in a series of soft tones and gestures that he gradually understood. She had a surprising familiarity with human technology, adapting her insights to the ship's systems in a way that was both intuitive and elegant. Elias found himself impressed, though he kept his admiration restrained. He had learned long ago that humility was a necessary companion for anyone traveling the stars. The conversation between them was minimal at first, punctuated by shared glances and occasional words. Elias didn't mind. Some moments, he had learned, were better left in quiet companionship rather than filled with unnecessary chatter. He steered the Starling away from the asteroid field, guiding them toward a safer route that would take them out of the unstable belt. Leora observed silently, occasionally pointing out hidden dangers with a flick of her hand, her gestures precise yet graceful. Hours passed, and the silence became a form of comfort. Elias realized that even in the vast emptiness of space, connections could form in moments of crisis, unspoken yet deeply understood. Leora's presence was soothing, a reminder that life, no matter how different, was always worth preserving. He found himself reflecting on the unexpectedness of the encounter, marveling at how a single act of kindness could ripple through circumstances, creating bonds he could never have predicted. Eventually, as the first light of a distant star glimmered on the horizon, Leora spoke again. "You saved me," she said softly, almost as a confirmation of reality. "You did not expect reward, yet what you have done is remarkable." Her words lingered, carrying a weight that Elias could not yet measure. He merely shrugged, feeling the familiar twinge of humility. "I told you," he said with a faint smile. "No need for thanks. Just be careful from now on." Elias felt a strange warmth, not of pride, but of connection, a sense that his actions, simple though they were, had meaning far beyond his understanding. The journey ahead remained uncertain. Leora's home was light years away, and their path would take them through uncharted territories filled with dangers both known and unseen. Yet in that moment, Elias felt a quiet certainty. He had done the right thing, and in return, he had gained more than he could have imagined. Not treasure, not fame, but a glimpse of something larger, something that transcended even the vastness of space. As the Starling glided smoothly through the asteroid belt, leaving the dangerous cliffs behind, Elias glanced at Leora. She studied the stars with a serenity that seemed almost impossible after her ordeal. He realized that their encounter, brief and unexpected as it was, had already begun to shape them both in ways neither could yet comprehend. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a spark of anticipation, curious, cautious, and utterly human, wondering what this strange, silent, and luminous companion might teach him in the days to come. The stars stretched endlessly outside the Starling's viewport, each point of light a reminder of how small Elias Crane felt in the universe. Yet beside him sat Princess Leora, quiet and composed, her glowing eyes occasionally tracing the patterns of distant constellations. Despite the silence, Elias sensed an unusual energy around her, something he could not fully explain. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, a soft hum in the air, a faint shimmer across the ship's surfaces whenever she moved. He tried to ignore it, telling himself that it was just the reflection of the stars or the ship's lighting, but he could not shake the feeling that something extraordinary was happening. They had been traveling together for several hours now, and conversation had been minimal. Elias usually enjoyed company, but the weight of responsibility, ensuring Leora's safety and navigating an unfamiliar route through the asteroid belt, kept his attention focused on the ship. Yet he found himself stealing glances at her. She seemed so calm, so certain of herself, even in the aftermath of danger. It was not arrogance, it was confidence. And in that confidence there was something contagious. "I don't often travel with humans," Leora said, finally breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, almost musical, and Elias felt a strange comfort in hearing it. I don't often travel with aliens either, he replied, trying to sound casual, though his curiosity was piqued. She smiled faintly, a gesture so subtle it almost seemed like a flicker of light across her face. Your species possesses qualities that are rare among those I have encountered. She hesitated, then continued, courage, kindness, and the willingness to act without expectation of reward. Most of the time, we just try to survive, make choices that keep us alive or comfortable. Sometimes we do the right thing, yes, but it's not always planned. He had saved her because it felt like the right thing to do, not because he expected praise or reward. Yet hearing someone recognize the simple act in such profound terms was humbling. Instinct, he muttered finally. Maybe that's all it is. But the universe has a way of noticing such instincts, Captain Elias Crane. Her voice carried a quiet certainty that left him momentarily speechless. As they traveled further, Elias focused on navigating the asteroid belt. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers, a chaotic web of rocks and ice floating in the void. Yet the ship responded as if guided by an unseen hand. Adjustments that would normally require careful calculation seemed to happen intuitively. When he reached for a control lever, it moved smoothly, almost anticipating his intent. At first, Elias assumed it was his own reflexes, honed over years of piloting, but the sensation was different. The ship seemed aware. "Do you feel that?" he asked cautiously, glancing at Leora. She met his eyes, her expression calm. "Feel what, Captain?" "Small gestures like the one you made can awaken forces beyond human comprehension. It influences the patterns of the universe in subtle ways. You have triggered such resonance. It is awareness, understanding, the opening of possibilities you never imagined." Yet he could not deny the strange feeling of harmony that had begun to settle over the starling. "Show me," he said quietly, his curiosity overcoming hesitation. "Show me what you mean." Instruments on the ship shifted subtly, lights flickering in patterns that seemed almost alive. The navigational displays rearranged themselves, highlighting optimal routes he had never considered. Elias reached for a control panel, and the readings adjusted instantly, as if anticipating his thoughts. "You see," Leora said, her voice calm, "your intentions, your pure act of saving another has awakened a connection. The universe responds to intent, and it has recognized yours." I don't know what to say." Sensors detected minor anomalies before they became dangerous. Even the engine seemed to hum in perfect harmony with his thoughts. It was not magic, nor technology as humans knew it. It was something else entirely, something deeply connected to the universe itself. Throughout it all, Leora remained by his side, observing quietly. Occasionally, she offered guidance, teaching him subtle techniques to harmonize his intentions with the ship's responses. Her methods were unlike anything he had learned in human schools or training programs. She spoke of resonance, awareness, and alignment, using gestures and tones that seemed almost musical. With each lesson, Elias felt a growing understanding, a sense of connection to the vast cosmos that went beyond instruments and calculations. "This is incredible," he said finally, unable to hide his awe. "I've never felt anything like this. It's as if the ship knows me, understands me. The universe notices those who act without selfishness, and you have acted in that way." As the journey continued, he began to notice more subtle changes. Small systems that previously required manual input now adjusted automatically. The ship's engines responded instantly to his minor shifts in pressure and focus. Even the lighting and temperature seemed to harmonize with his mood, creating an environment that was both calming and invigorating. It was as if the vessel itself had become an extension of his own being, a partner in the voyage rather than a mere machine. At one point, he looked over at Leora and asked, "Do you do this with everyone, or am I special?" "You acted without expectation, without desire for reward. That is why this connection exists." It was a lesson far greater than any he had learned from star charts, trade logs, or even the countless explorers he had met along the way. As the asteroid belt slowly receded behind them, the starling gliding smoothly through open space, Elias felt a sense of calm he had never known. He was no longer just a traveler navigating physical space. He was part of something larger, something alive and responsive, shaped in part by his own choices. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that this journey with Leora was only beginning. The princess remained silent, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. Elias understood that her silence was not emptiness, but observation, reflection. She had shown him the first glimpse of a universe where intent and action were recognized in ways humans had never imagined. And though he could not yet grasp the full extent of her power or the reward it brought, he felt certain that his life, and perhaps even humanity's place among the stars, was about to change in ways that were wondrous and profound. As they drifted further into the void, Elias thought about the simple act that had set everything into motion. A life saved without expectation, without thought of reward. Yet that single choice had unlocked a universe of possibilities, a hidden harmony that connected beings across light years. And as he glanced at Leora, he realized that in helping her, he had begun to understand something far greater than he could have imagined. That kindness, courage, and selflessness were forces that could ripple through the stars themselves, shaping reality in ways both subtle and magnificent. For the first time in years, Elias felt truly alive. Days passed as the starling sailed through the uncharted regions of space. Elias had begun to understand that Leora's presence was not only calming but transformative. Every small action he took seemed to ripple through the ship and the surrounding cosmos, responding to his intentions in ways that both amazed and humbled him. It was as if he were no longer merely a pilot but part of a living system, connected to forces far beyond his comprehension. Leora watched him quietly, her luminous eyes tracing the lines of his movements as he guided the ship. Occasionally, she spoke, not to instruct, but to illuminate his understanding of the universe. "Your actions are shaping more than this ship," she said one evening, the soft hum of the engines filling the cabin. "The resonance you have created reaches beyond metal and circuits. It touches patterns that govern matter and energy itself. You're saying that saving you has changed things outside the ship." He had always believed in cause and effect in practical terms. A button pressed, a lever moved, a signal sent. But this was different. The simple act of saving her had opened something vast, something invisible yet undeniably present. He felt a shiver run down his spine, not of fear, but of wonder. "Show me," he said finally. "I need to see it." She moved toward the center of the cabin and extended her hands, palms open, fingers slowly weaving in a gesture that seemed almost like a dance. A soft glow emanated from her, subtle but tangible. The hum of the ship intensified, not loud but resonant, filling the cabin with a vibration that seemed to sync with his heartbeat. Elias felt it immediately. The ship's systems began to adjust in ways that defied explanation. Navigation readouts shimmered and aligned themselves with precision beyond human calculation. Sensors detected the faintest gravitational anomalies and energy fluctuations in real time, allowing him to anticipate obstacles before they appeared. Even the stars outside seemed to shimmer slightly, as if their light were bending toward him in recognition. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It's like the universe is listening. But it listens only to those who act with sincerity, without expectation, without desire for personal gain." The idea that human intentions could resonate so deeply through the fabric of reality was both humbling and empowering. Over the next few hours, Leora began to teach him more. She explained that the Verari had long observed the galaxy, noting how different species interacted with one another. Some acted purely out of self-interest, leaving ripples of chaos in their wake. Others, rare and remarkable, acted out of genuine care for another being, and their actions sent ripples of harmony. Elias was beginning to understand that he had been placed at the center of one such ripple. "You are not using this power yet," Leora said gently. "You are still learning, but even now the universe responds to you in small ways. If you continue to act with clarity of heart, your influence will grow. You may find that problems resolve before they arise, that opportunities appear where none seemed possible. But it must always be your choice, your intention." He had traveled through countless sectors, faced dangers, and navigated treacherous systems, but never had he felt such direct connection to something greater than himself. It was not control in the way a human might understand it. It was partnership, a recognition between intention and reality, human action and cosmic response. Later, as they sailed past a cluster of glowing nebulae, Elias experimented cautiously. He focused on guiding the ship through the dense gas clouds, thinking carefully about his movements and intentions. The ship responded almost immediately, adjusting its path with precision that made him feel as though he were one with it. Instruments displayed routes that seemed to anticipate hazards, lights shifted to reveal the clearest path, and even the small waves of radiation from the nebula bent subtly around them. "This is amazing," he said, turning to Leora. "It's like I can sense the obstacles before they appear." Trust in the choice you made to act selflessly. That choice is the key to resonance. That trust, that act of courage, was the foundation of this connection. And now, as the ship moved with uncanny precision, he felt the truth of Leora's words. Days continued in this rhythm. Elias learned to navigate more intuitively, to anticipate cosmic currents and subtle gravitational shifts. Leora remained by his side, teaching him patience, awareness, and the quiet power of observation. Sometimes she would speak in soft tones, other times she simply watched, allowing him to discover the effects of his own intentions. The bond between them grew, not in words, but in shared understanding. One evening, as they drifted past a series of small, ice-covered asteroids, Elias felt a sudden tug in the ship's systems. Normally, such an anomaly would require careful calculation to avoid collision, but without conscious thought, he adjusted his focus, thinking only of the ship's safe passage. The starling responded immediately, gliding effortlessly through the obstacles. He glanced at Leora, who smiled faintly, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "You are learning quickly," she said, "but there is more. What you feel now is only the beginning. Your influence can extend beyond the ship, beyond the immediate environment. Your intentions can guide events at a distance, as long as your actions remain pure and focused." Yet he could feel it, small, subtle changes in the patterns around them, responding to his focus and awareness. It was like touching the threads of the universe and feeling them move in harmony with his heart. The more he experimented, the more he understood. He could sense variations in energy, anticipate fluctuations in gravitational fields, and even detect faint anomalies in the distant stars. Each success reinforced the idea that his initial act of selflessness had opened a doorway to something far greater than mere survival. He was beginning to glimpse the potential of human courage and kindness as a force in the cosmos. Leora watched quietly, her presence a constant reminder of the origin of this power. She never demanded anything from him, only guided when necessary, allowing him to discover the depth of his own influence. Her role was subtle yet essential, an anchor in a universe that was suddenly more alive than he had ever imagined. One morning, as the light of a distant sun filtered through the ship's viewport, Elias stood at the helm, feeling a profound sense of clarity. The starling moved with grace, its systems aligned perfectly with his intentions. He could sense the flow of energy around them, the subtle movements of matter and light, and the resonance that connected all things. For the first time in his life, he felt not just as a traveler of space, but as a participant in the greater harmony of the universe. Leora approached, her steps light and purposeful. She extended her hand, and Elias felt a warmth spread through him, not from touch alone, but from the presence of understanding and recognition. "You are ready," she said softly. "Ready to explore the wider reach of your influence, but remember, it is not power that guides you. It is choice, intention, and selflessness." He realized that this journey was more than a passage through space. It was a journey of discovery, of learning the subtle dance between action and consequence, intention and response. And through it all, he understood that the universe had already begun to reward him, not with wealth or glory, but with insight, connection, and the quiet knowledge that human courage and kindness could touch even the farthest stars. As the starling moved on, weaving between glowing cosmic clouds and silent constellations, Elias reflected on the path that had brought him here. A simple act of saving a life, an instinctive gesture of care, had opened a universe of possibilities. And beside him, Princess Leora watched the stars, her presence a constant reminder of the ripple they had begun together. In the quiet of the ship, Elias felt a surge of gratitude, not only for the gift he was beginning to understand, but for the opportunity to act, to be human in the truest sense. Brave, selfless, and full of wonder. The universe was alive, responsive, and full of mysteries waiting to be explored. And for the first time, he knew that he was ready to meet those mysteries, guided not by technology alone, but by the resonance of his heart and the purity of his intentions. The journey through deep space had taken longer than Elias had expected, yet he did not mind. Time seemed different aboard the Starling when Leora was with him. Every moment was measured not only in distance traveled, but in understanding gained. The stars no longer appeared as distant points of light. They shimmered with subtle patterns, as though each one were aware of their passage, responding to their intentions. Elias had grown accustomed to this strange harmony, to the sense that his actions, simple, selfless, deliberate, were weaving him into a larger cosmic tapestry. At last, after what felt like countless light days, a massive world appeared on the horizon. It was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Verari Prime glowed softly, a jewel of turquoise and gold suspended in the black void. Its surface shimmered with iridescent oceans and crystalline forests that reflected the light of its three suns. Swirling clouds danced in luminous patterns, hinting at the living energy flowing across the planet. Elias felt his chest tighten with awe. He had traveled to many remarkable worlds, but this one seemed alive in a way that surpassed any human imagination. Leora guided him with quiet precision, pointing out the safest approach. The starling descended slowly, the ship responding intuitively to her gestures and subtle tones. Elias felt the resonance deepen, a tingling awareness in every nerve and thought, as though the planet itself were acknowledging their arrival. When they finally landed on a platform that seemed to hover effortlessly above the crystalline surface, Elias stepped out and was immediately struck by the beauty surrounding him. The air was warm but carried a delicate fragrance, subtle and soothing. Colors shifted with every glance, reflecting light in ways that seemed almost intentional, as if the planet were aware of his presence. Leora led him along smooth pathways that curved naturally with the land. There were no structures in the human sense, no buildings imposing themselves on the terrain. Instead, crystalline formations rose gracefully from the ground, interwoven with living energy that pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Elias realized that the Verari had shaped their world not by force but by harmony, a reflection of the resonance he had begun to understand. "This is incredible," he said quietly, his voice almost lost in the vast expanse. "It's like the planet itself is alive. Our cities, our tools, our very energy flows in harmony with the planet. It is not a machine nor a fortress, it is a partner. And now you will see how your actions have opened the next step in your journey." Light shimmered through translucent structures, reflecting the colors of the planet below in gentle waves. Leora paused at the center of the hall, her eyes glowing softly. Elias felt a strange vibration in the air, subtle yet unmistakable. It was as if the entire world were holding its breath, waiting. "You are about to receive the full reward for your selflessness," she said. "But it is not a gift you can hold in your hands. It is understanding, awareness, the ability to perceive and influence patterns that humans rarely notice. You have saved a life purely because it was right. That intention is enough." He closed his eyes, sensing the currents of energy flowing through the platform beneath his feet, rising from the planet itself. The air around him shimmered with patterns that he could not name, yet he recognized intuitively. It was as though the universe had opened a door and he was stepping through it. "Focus on what you feel," Leora instructed. "Do not think of control. Do not think of power. Simply observe, align, and understand." Slowly, images began to form in his mind, connections between energy flows, movements of matter, currents of light that seemed to respond to intention. He realized that he could sense patterns in ways humans had never been taught. The movement of the planet's energy, the interplay of the three suns' light, even the faint vibrations of distant asteroids, all were part of a network he could perceive and with thought and intention influence. This is unbelievable," he whispered. "I can see everything, the patterns, the connections." Understanding comes next. You must learn to act in harmony with these patterns, not against them. When you do, you will find that solutions emerge where problems once existed, that obstacles shift before you even touch them, that the universe itself becomes cooperative in response to your intentions. This was not about power or dominance. It was about awareness, choice, and alignment with forces far greater than himself. His initial act of saving her had been small, yet it had unlocked a doorway to this understanding. And now, he could feel the ripple extending outward, touching the living planet and perhaps even beyond. "Can anyone do this?" he asked, still struggling to grasp the scale of what he was experiencing. "Few can," Leora said softly. "It requires purity of intention, courage, and selflessness. Many act with skill or desire for reward, but those actions do not resonate in the same way. You have awakened something rare." He felt the starling systems, now docked nearby, hum in harmony with his awareness, as if acknowledging the new level of understanding he had reached. He turned his gaze to the planet below, noticing the flowing forests, the shimmering oceans, and the crystalline formations. all interconnected in a web of energy that was now, in some subtle way, familiar to him. Leora guided him to a gently rising platform in the center of the hall. "Here," she said, "is where you will begin to practice. Influence, observe, harmonize. Let your intentions guide the patterns around you. Remember, this is not magic. It is resonance, awareness, and alignment." He focused on a nearby crystal formation, feeling the flow of energy from the planet through his body and into the crystal. Slowly, the formation responded, pulsing softly, shifting its light and angle. Elias opened his eyes in astonishment. It was subtle yet unmistakable. He was interacting with the environment in a way humans could never have imagined, simply by aligning his intentions with the patterns he could now perceive. "You are learning quickly," Leora said, her voice gentle. "But there is more. The universe responds to the clarity of your heart, the honesty of your actions. Continue to act with selflessness and awareness, and you will find that your influence extends far beyond this hall, far beyond this planet." It was not conquest, nor exploration, nor technology. It was understanding, connection, and alignment. His human instincts, his courage and kindness had unlocked a doorway to the universe itself. Hours passed as he practiced, focusing on subtle manipulations of light, energy, and matter. The effects were gentle but profound. Crystals shifted, currents of energy flowed smoothly, and the very air seemed to harmonize with his focus. Leora observed silently, occasionally guiding him with a word or gesture. With each practice, Elias felt a growing sense of confidence and humility, understanding that he was part of something far larger than himself. As the day drew to a close, Elias stepped back from the platform, breathing deeply. The hall glowed softly in the light of the setting suns, and he felt a profound gratitude for the journey that had brought him here. A simple act of saving a life, an instinctive choice without expectation, had unlocked a universe of possibilities. He realized that his reward was not tangible, yet it was more valuable than anything he had ever imagined. Leora approached him, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You have done well," she said. "But remember, this is only the beginning. Your journey with resonance, awareness, and understanding has just begun. Continue to act with kindness, courage, and selflessness, and the universe will continue to respond." The planet beneath them, the stars above, the starling waiting nearby, they were all part of a living, responsive network that he was only beginning to understand. And as he gazed out at the glowing, crystalline expanse of Verari Prime, Elias felt a quiet certainty. The universe had recognized his courage, his selflessness, and his intention. He had received a reward beyond comprehension, a gift of awareness, understanding, and resonance that could guide him, not for personal gain, but to act in harmony with the cosmos itself. For the first time, he understood that his choices, however small, could shape the universe in profound ways. And beside him, Princess Leora smiled, her luminous eyes reflecting both pride and gentle encouragement, as Elias prepared to step into the next chapter of his extraordinary journey. Elias stood quietly at the edge of the floating platform, looking out over Verari Prime. The planet glowed beneath him, its crystalline lands reflecting soft light into the sky. The three suns were slowly lowering toward the horizon, painting the air with calm colors that shifted gently from gold to blue. Everything felt peaceful, yet Elias knew something deep inside him had changed forever. He could feel it in the way the air moved, in the way the planet's energy flowed like a slow, steady river beneath his thoughts. He had not spoken much since the ceremony ended. Words felt heavy now, almost unnecessary. It was not that he could not speak. It was that language suddenly felt too small for what he understood. His mind was filled with connections, patterns, and awareness that no sentence could fully carry. Leora stood a short distance away, watching him with quiet attention. She did not rush him. She understood silence better than most beings. On Verari Prime, silence was not emptiness. It was respect. It was space for understanding to settle. Elias slowly turned his attention inward. He could feel the starling resting behind him, docked gently as if the ship itself were listening. He sensed its systems, its structure, and even the faint echoes of every journey it had ever made. At the same time, he felt the planet beneath his feet, the flow of energy between land, sea, and sky. Beyond that, he felt the stars, not as distant objects, but as part of the same connected whole. This was the true reward, not power, not control, not command, understanding. He realized that the universe was not something to be conquered or mastered. It was something to be listened to. And humanity, with its ability to act without certainty, to help without reward, had a place in that conversation. Leora stepped closer. "You are quiet," she said gently. Elias nodded slowly. "I don't feel like talking," he said. "Not because I don't want to, because I don't need to." "You said her reward would silence me. I thought you meant I'd lose my voice." He could still speak, still laugh, still question. But now silence was no longer uncomfortable. It was complete. They began to walk along the curved path together. The surface beneath their feet shifted slightly with each step, responding to their presence without effort. Elias did not guide it. He did not ask. It simply aligned. As they walked, Elias sensed movement far beyond the planet. A distant trade ship adjusted its course without knowing why, avoiding a future danger. A damaged satellite slowly stabilized as energy flows shifted around it. A human explorer, light years away, felt a sudden moment of clarity and chose patience over fear. Elias did not cause these things directly. He did not control them, but the resonance spread. A human act of selflessness had left a mark, and the universe remembered. "You could do much with this," Leora said quietly. "You could guide, influence, protect, but only if you choose carefully. Understanding must grow naturally." They felt familiar, like an old memory he had only just remembered. "I'm still human," he said softly. "More than ever," Leora replied. Elias thought of Earth, of ordinary people living ordinary lives, mechanics fixing engines, doctors helping strangers, pilots navigating storms, parents protecting children. Humans failed often. They argued. They made mistakes. But again and again, they chose to help even when there was no guarantee of success. That, he now understood, was their strength. "You won't stay here forever," Leora said. "No," Elias agreed. "I shouldn't." As Elias approached his ship, he felt it greet him, not with sound, but with alignment. Every system, every circuit, every molecule rested in balance. It did not obey him. It understood him. Before boarding, Elias turned back to Leora. "Will I see you again?" No promises, no ceremony, no grand farewell, just shared understanding. When Elias stepped aboard the Starling, the ship lifted smoothly into the sky. Verari Prime fell away beneath him, glowing softly, alive and calm. He did not feel loss. He felt continuation. As the stars stretched out before him, Elias did not rush. He allowed the ship to move at its natural pace. He sensed paths opening, routes forming not from calculation, but from harmony. He no longer chased purpose. Purpose found him. Far from Verari space, human systems would one day notice small changes. Ships that seemed luckier than expected. Explorers who made the right choice without knowing why. Engineers whose designs worked better than planned. Leaders who paused before acting and chose cooperation. No one would know why. No monuments would be built. No stories would name Elias Crane as a hero, and that was exactly right. Because the greatest change did not arrive with noise. It arrived quietly. A human saved a life expecting nothing. The universe noticed, and it answered not with force but with silence. A silence filled with understanding. As the Starling disappeared into the starfield, Elias rested his hands lightly on the controls. He did not speak. He did not need to. The universe was listening, and for the first time so was he.